Tucker Carlson interviewed this guy that Dreher and others call the Great Martyr. His name is actually Daryl Cooper. It's a wide-ranging, 2-hour-long, rambling interview covering all manner of topics. And the reason I'm going to bring this up, now, one of the topics that was covered was the American Empire, American Exceptionalism, and World War II. Now, apparently, we were, or are, whichever terminology we should use, are some of the very few people in the world that had actually heard of this before. Because there's a mass freakout over this. Dreher did an entire blog on it. Here's Dreher's title, The Great Martyr Made Freakout. Daryl Cooper's views on Churchill are absurd, but he's still worth listening to. There are others out there. About half a dozen of you or so sent me the interview. TKD, you must listen. No one in history has ever talked about the great Churchill and the war and everything. So I went. I very humbly thanked all of you, and I'm sure there are things I haven't got in the interview. I plan to watch it this weekend. Haven't seen it yet, and I'm glad that you guys sent it to me. Keep them coming. But can I just remind those of you, especially those of you that may be new listeners and weren't around during the Sirius XM Patriot days, going all the way back to 2008. That's 16 years ago by my count. 2008 would have been the first time that I would have encountered a challenge to my thinking on the American exceptionalism and American empire hegemony. That we are the greatest people in the history of great people, and we are the people the world has always been waiting for. And most of it happened because of World War II. Because of the Great War. And there were great men that were in that war, and there were great acts of valor, acts of heroism and courage, and no one is denying that. But those men were pawns. Those guys were used. They were used by the people that wanted to create the military-industrial complex, needed to create the impression and the imagery of empire. That way, you have something, there's only 2 superpowers in the world. Gee, I wonder how that happened. Only 2? Just 2? Whole planet? You just get 2? And so the myth just kind of kicks in from there. And there's so many myths that are attached to this. Well, this is some of what Cooper and Tucker Carlson talked about. And this is not sour grapes. I'm not upset. I'm glad it came to a much larger audience because it shocked a lot of people who'd never heard it before. But Pat Buchanan's book, I want to say Buchanan's book came out in the 90s. Buchanan wrote a book about this, about Churchill and the war in the American Empire. And Buchanan wasn't the first. If you go back and read all issues of, I'm trying to think of the name of it now, L. Brent Bozell's publication that used to have Joseph Sobran and Sam Francis and all those guys in it. They had been writing about this. Mel Bradford, certainly. Bradford wrote a book about it. And so did Buchanan. The point being that this has been known. We used to call them This is how the term Decepticons came about. And I did interviews with Lou Rockwell, with Tom Woods, with Kevin Gutzman, with Brian McClanahan, with Tom DiLorenzo, with Anthony Gregory, with Pat Buchanan. And the list could go on and on and on. The point is that welcome aboard. All the people that are just learning about this. But this is interesting because now it's making its way around all around X. There are arguments going on. I'm like, oh, hey, Tucker, welcome to my world. Because now you can get people going, what are you, a Nazi sympathizer? You're an anti-Semite. Because anyone that goes against any of the myths that came from World War II, that makes you you're automatically an anti-Semite. It doesn't even matter which myth you challenge. Makes you an anti-Semite. Well, my friend and yours, Eric Sammons, God bless him, goes on Twitter yesterday, and you must have seen this. And he writes this 8-paragraph long kind of little post here, a mini essay on Twitter. And I'm reading it going like, oh, hey, another one. Stick my head out. Welcome aboard. Some might wonder why it matters what we think of Winston Churchill and the Allies. No one debates so fiercely the Spanish-American War, after all. So why does it matter? Because World War II is the founding myth of the American Empire, and Winston Churchill is its prophet. Remember, they just made a Churchill movie. Gary Oldman plays Churchill, wins the Oscar. This just continues the myth. Notice how Hollywood, how media is necessary for the propagation of these myths. It cannot happen without the media industrial complex. And they do their part. Sammons, every conflict, every intervention, every expansion of American dominance around the globe since the 1940s has been defended by the belief that we can't be Chamberlain. He's talking about Neville Chamberlain. We must be Churchill. Every immoral action to defend and expand the empire is justified in light of Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and Dresden. Yet, bring up the Dresden bomb. We needed to carpet bomb those damn krauts. Civvies? Largely unarmed? Probably starving? We'll never know because we reduced their city to a pile of stones. Civvies? Would you like it if the Chinese decided that American civvies, if we get into a conflict with the Chinese, that American civvies need to get their share of Chinese superiority? Asking for a friend. You see, what I just said, you're not supposed to ask that. You're not even allowed to have that conversation. We're Americans. Sammons. This is why people, especially neocons, emotionally freak out whenever someone dares question the actions of Churchill and the Allies. If Churchill and the Allies weren't perfect in all their decisions, then the myth begins to crumble. Remember, relentless propaganda is necessary to support any empire. Well, they have it in spades. Any criticism, therefore, is an attack on the religion of American exceptionalism. By the way, my friend Richard Gamble wrote, I think, one of the signature books on this subject. You can get it at Amazon, still in hardback. It's like $12, $14. It's called City on a Hill. Gamble teaches with... how many of you are old enough, Mike Churchill listeners, to remember the Berzer effect? I haven't talked to Brad Berzer in 12 years or so, but we need to revive the Berzer effect because I think we're going to need that kind of dialogue and discussion after this election is over. But Richard Gamble teaches at Hillsdale with Brad Berzer. Just FYI. Any criticism, therefore, is an attack on the religion of American exceptionalism. Now, let me just pause right here because I love talking about this stuff. Where do we get the myth of American exceptionalism? See, I think this is even more fertile ground here. Where does the myth of American exceptionalism come from? Now, let it be stated that there are exceptional Americans. I'm one. If you're listening to the Crusade Radio Network, you're an exceptional American. You're exceptional because you don't quite buy the company line and you question it because you think it makes the world a better place. I think that makes you exceptional. Now, you didn't have to scale any hills. You didn't have to mount any cannon or horses. You didn't have to shoot at anyone. You just did the right, moral, and noble thing. I think that makes you exceptional. I think that there are Italian exceptionalists. French, German, English. But you see, you're not allowed to say that. There's only American exceptionalism. We're the greatest. You know, when someone says we're the greatest country that could ever live, that has ever existed on the face of the earth, that's a big, bold statement there, big guy. You sure you want to take that to the history books? Because there have been instances of countries that flourished and produced achievements far beyond exporting Big Macs and blue jeans. I mean, look, if that's where, if you want to marry yourself to that, and that's where you think that's where the bread is buttered, brother, you just go right on ahead. Doesn't mean that you're right. Doesn't make you correct. How would you prove that? How would you disprove it? All right, back to Eric Sammons. These are questions. They're not rhetorical. Any criticism, therefore, is an attack on the religion of American exceptionalism. So its disciples just revert to name-calling, Nazi apologists, etc., because they fear any objective look at the historical record might weaken that religion and the American empire. Imagine if more Americans were as devoted to the Christian religion, the Catholic religion, for example, as they are to the religion of American exceptionalism. You know, USA, USA, USA. That's a religion, bro. That is really it has every trapping of religion. And currently, it has a demigod, Trump. It has sacraments. Wear a MAGA hat. Receive your MAGA hat on the head while kneeling. That's fantastic. It has all the trappings of a religion, but we should say that that while it is a religion in the just classical sense of the term, in the spiritual sense of the term, it isn't. Maybe even robs some people of their spiritual religion. Sammons. To be clear, this doesn't mean every criticism of Churchill and the Allies is automatically right, or that some actual Hitler sympathizers don't use these criticisms to advance their vile views. True. But that doesn't negate the fact that our history books are mostly propaganda organs for supporting the continued dominance of the American empire. So they ignore any problematic decisions made by Churchill and the Allies. And then Sammons says, I highly recommend Pat Buchanan's book, Churchill, Hitler, and the Unnecessary War, How Britain Lost Its Empire and the West Lost the World, for a deeper dive into bursting the empire's founding myth and its prophet. You can even go ahead, you can read it. Mel Bradford, M.E. Bradford's A Better Guide Than Reason. What's a better guide than reason? Tradition. You can read almost anything written by Tom Woods on the subject. Read almost anything written by Thomas DiLorenzo. You go to LouRockwell.com and search those archives, which go back about almost 25 or maybe even 30 years or so. There's tons written on that. Read Joe Sobrand columns if you can find them at Joe Sobrand's archives. There's so much that's out there. But let me just give you one more historical point, jumping off point here. And then I'm going to get back to the current events of the day, because that's why people tune in. Not for this intellectual gibberish. They also needed to steal the thunder from actual history teachers at American universities. They had to have historians go along with this, to put it in history books and then to teach it. So how did they do that? They enlisted the aid and they corrupted a guy whose name was Leo Strauss. Strauss is the gang leader of the intellectual branch of the American exceptionalism religion. He is the St. Thomas Aquinas of American exceptionalism. Strauss then passed the baton on to one of his disciples, who then carried it to this thing called the Claremont Institute. His name is Harry Jaffa. Kevin Gutzman used to call these people the Jaffaites. There's another strange thing about Leo Strauss that you may want to look up, because he is he's the St. Thomas Aquinas of the American exceptionalism movement. I think the American Exceptionalism movement is a horribly dangerous thing and has led to every war that's happened since World War II. Since Churchill and Emperor Hirohito and Roosevelt met on, or Truman met on the deck of the, what ship was that? At Yalta, and signed basically the armistice. Every war that's happened since then has probably been the fault of or related to American exceptionalism. Let me give you one more thing on Leo Strauss. If you study a little bit about Leo Strauss, you know what you're going to find? Now, look, Tucker Carlson started this, and there's millions of people out there that are now talking about that. So I think that this is a current event. But if you want the truth on this, well, you have to dig just a little bit deeper. And I don't know, maybe the great Martyr, maybe he told Tucker all about this. As I said, I haven't watched the interview yet. I'll watch Daryl Cooper. Strauss's paths cross with whose? You're going to love this. Saul Alinsky. Alinsky and Strauss are big buddies. Just think about that for just a moment. The greatest fake historian of the 20th century, Leo Strauss, intellectually married to, the greatest fake community organizer and inspirational speaker and author of the 20th century, Saul Alinsky, Obama's muse. So American exceptionalism and American communism and American community organization communism are all related? Yep. Yepers. You also need villains. You don't just need heroes, you need villains. Can't be exceptional unless there are people that aren't exceptional. You know the people that aren't exceptional? Hippies. You people who aren't exceptional? Kurt Cobain fans, grunge wackos. You keep going. I'm glad Tucker brought this up. You can go down this path. You're going to figure a lot of things out that ain't the way that they're supposed to be, and are going to seriously alter your thinking on many, many fronts. Might even alter some of your MAGA thinking. Make America great again, which not an enemy of. All right, Mike Churchill here on the Crusade Radio Network here. This portion of the program.